But how do you feel though? Let's start from there. Do you notice any visual changes? Do you feel bloated? Do you feel like you're not leaning down?
I think it
Go
could
ahead.
also, like, with my weight, I think it could also be that I'm not eating like a very stable like my diet is not always the same. I
Hmm.
kind of always mix it up a little bit. And then also there was the Thanksgiving time as well where I didn't really track the calories because we went out and I didn't know how to track them and stuff. So I this might have also messed things up a little bit, or at
Hmm.
least I have more water retention, or yeah. So I'll see
All
what
right.
I can do.
Yeah, what I'm seeing here is that your weight has been stable for the last, what's this, a week. Then obviously we had Thanksgiving there, and it's probably affected the averages, and they're going slightly up. But how do you feel though? Let's start from there. Do you notice any visual changes? Do you feel bloated? Do you feel like you're not leaning down? I know it's
Yeah,
subjective,
I've
but I
been
always ask this question. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'm feeling a little bloated, or more bloated
Hmm.
or constipated than usual. Um, yeah, and also I think my sleep rhythm is also different as well. I don't know if it's because it's winter now and it gets cold in the morning and I don't want to get up, but usually I always got up at like around 8 or 9, and now I get up at like 10 or 11.
Hmm. Okay. So if you are feeling bloated, that could definitely explain the weight. So if your weight is stable, it could be a bunch of different things, not necessarily have to be directly related to what is happening in terms of body fat or muscle growth. Um,
Hmm.
Bloat obviously is going to be water plus some food residue and just basically bowel movement changes there. You're retaining more water, you're retaining more food residue. So if you feel like your diet is on point, sure, it may not be perfect, but if you feel like you're still in a deficit and you're still making some good choices and you're not overeating, but you're bloated, maybe it's worth waiting another week and see what happens to your weight. Because if you drop the bloat, probably after this, things there's a high chance things are going to normalize in terms of what we see there for the rate of weight loss. But if your weight remains stable and you drop some water weight or you drop the bloat, but there's no big change there, maybe we need to just be a little bit more careful with the food consumption. Not necessarily change the goal, but make sure that you're getting closer to your caloric target.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and what you said there in terms of sleep, this is a pretty big thing. I've also noticed this myself. I'm not sure if there's any research regarding this or any official data, but definitely during winter time, myself, and I've seen this with clients as well, we tend to sleep more. If there's less sun outside, we tend to sleep more, we tend to wake up later, which in effect may also have a have an effect on your bowel movement, especially if you find yourself that you're not going to the toilet first thing in the morning, or maybe if it's a little bit later when you have bowel movement, or just how much how much you pee, if you
Yeah,
will. So that could also affect the measurement. When you step on the scale, basically you just have different water retention compared to normal if you slept more.
I definitely feel that because before, when I used to wake up earlier, I had a lot more bowel movement, and now I only really need to go after I had my breakfast. So if I don't eat, then like there's the bowel movement is not really that much.
Hmm.
But after I
Hmm.
had my first meal, then like half an hour or hour later, then my bowel movement usually happens. So I guess that also definitely makes a difference on the scale as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. The once you get into a nice rhythm where it doesn't it doesn't have to be like you wake up, you go to the toilet, you do your thing, and then you step on the scale. Sometimes that's not going to be the case. Sometimes you're just going to wake up, you're not going to feel like going to the toilet, and that's going to be different throughout like the months throughout the year. So once you get to a nice rhythm where you always go take a number two after your breakfast, which is usually later once you when you do your measurement, the weight measurement, then this is going to be the new norm, and then we can establish some kind of a trend there in terms of the weight movement, and that's probably going to be reliable. So maybe right now you're just in between, your body's just adapting to the season, your digestion is adapting, so there's different things that are happening that are offsetting the usual weight movement. And of course we had the
Mhm.
holidays, so what we could do is just be a little bit more diligent with your tracking and make sure that you're not going over your caloric target. Get as close to that goal as you can, which in your case, let me just double check. It's about 1900 throughout the week, and I know the weekends could be a bit a bit different. So maybe
Yeah.
during the weeks go 1900. If you can get to 1800 occasionally, keep protein high,
Hmm.
which I think you're doing a pretty good job with protein. And then let's give it another week. Let's see how things are progressing. And maybe once you drop the below, things are going to normalize. If not, we can take a closer look and figure out what exactly is happening. Could be that you're leaning down, it's just that we're not seeing it on the scale for whatever reason. But usually more than a week of no weight movement, it's a bit uncommon. I've seen like weight stagnant for 2 weeks and then suddenly like dropping a lot of water or something happens there. If people are stressed out, things normalize and then they suddenly flush out all the extra weight. Usually again, water could be constipation
Yeah.
as well, and things normalize.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, I'll see how it goes and then make sure I track all the
Mhm.
food and everything.
Okay. And yeah, you did mention something else to Ben. It was about warm-up protocol. You were
No,
asking
yeah, it
how to
was
warm
about
up.
the
Mhm,
stretching and the warm up
mhm,
before the exercises because I realized that on my worksheet on the chart where the exercises are listed that there's no like
mhm,
warm up set or like a stretching regime or something like that. So I usually for like the more heavy stuff, I always do a warm up anyways, like with low weights or with no weights or whatnot. And then sometimes I also just like stretch or do my get my steps in before or have a short run or something just to warm up. I just realized there's nothing on the plan, so I just wanted to
mhm,
ask about that if there's anything specific I should do or
mhm. Okay. So when it comes to a warm-up protocol, the best thing you can do, it's going to be specific to the work that you are about to do on that workout. So for example, if you're going to be doing some squats, do something that resembles a squat, that's going to train the same muscles in a similar manner as a squat. And of course, the simplest solution there is if you're going to be squatting with a bar on your back, maybe start with a couple of just a single set of bodyweight squats, then load an empty bar, do another set of just let's say 6, 10 reps, how many you need there, and you gradually increase the weight. So essentially, your warm up is exactly the same exercise with just less weight. This is assuming we're not dealing with a specific issue that may need a bit more of a specific approach there. So there are certain stretching protocols, there are certain exercises that can prime the muscle, but this is usually if we know that a certain muscle, it may not be the main muscle. So, for example, for the squat, that's going to be for most people your quads and your glutes. They're going to be the prime movers, but maybe your hamstrings. They're not working properly. They're not doing their balancing job. They're not controlling the movement. So we need to quote unquote wake them up. And in a sense, you're doing something for a muscle that's not, I don't want to say directly involved, but it's not the primary mover for that exercise. But for us to do that kind of a protocol, we need to know what we're dealing with. And in your case, unless you're having some known issue, I would say you don't need to do anything too specific. Just do a similar version of the same exercise you're about to do. Train the muscles that you're about to, do some. It could be loaded, it could be unloaded, just body weight movements for the muscles
Mhm.
that are about to be working. As for stretching, there's again, it's specific to what you're trying to achieve there. Not against stretching, and usually there's two main types of stretching. There's the passive stretch where you get into a position, you hold that position for a while, which has its own benefits. If you're going to be doing strength training after this, may not be the best thing to do. Better to do more like a dynamic stretch where you are going through the range, but you're not holding a position for too long. You're actually going through the whole range. There is movement. It is dynamic. But again, this could have a merit if it resembles what you're supposed to be doing. So, for example, warming up, let's say you're going to be doing some bicycle curls and warming up your legs or stretching your legs, it's probably not going to do that much. Or walking the treadmill for that matter, probably it's not going to do that much. There's nothing wrong with this. Like if you have like a nice routine that you do before your workout, and especially if you this is a way for you to get your steps in. You're just walking a little bit. You walk to the gym, or maybe hop on the treadmill for a while, for 5 minutes. It's okay, but it's not going to directly impact your performance during actual exercise. So my suggestion is do something very similar, basically nothing exotic that you need to do. Just go through the motion. And once you walk in the gym, take mental inventory of how you're feeling. For example, I think I've talked about this during one of the Monday calls. If you walk in the gym or you wake up in the morning and your knees feel a bit stiff or your calves feel stiff or something is off, pay attention to this and work on this as you're doing your warm up. For example, if your knees they crack, they pop, there's something there, maybe extend your warm up, which means that go slower, do more warm up sets for your squat. Do maybe like some walking lunges. Again, just prepare those muscles and get an idea of what is the current state of your body, and if you need to pay a little bit more attention to that specific body part. Also, the warm up is going to be directly related to how much what's the intensity. So, quote unquote, weight. So if you're going to be
Mhm.
lifting very heavy weight, yeah, sure, you're probably going to need to do a couple of warm-up sets there. But if you're going to be doing bicep curls and you're not really a very strong individual and you're going to be lifting, I don't know, maybe 20 pounds, do you need to warm up a lot? Yeah, maybe just a single set is going to be enough. But if you're going to be moving 250 pounds on the squat, okay, so you're gonna
Yeah.
take your time and just gradually load up the bar.
Okay. Makes sense.